Hello, steadfast Taurus. Some periods in astrology do not announce themselves with thunder. They begin quietly, like the first change in the soil before anything green appears. The near future carries that quality for you. Patterns surrounding your values, security, relationships, and direction may deserve a closer look, because what once felt stable may no longer fully support who you are becoming. You may reconsider what deserves your loyalty, what genuinely nourishes you, and what you continue protecting, simply because it has been part of your life for so long. For Taurus, growth rarely means tearing everything down. More often it begins by recognizing that stability and stagnation can look surprisingly similar from the inside. A familiar relationship may feel different. A career or financial priority may lose meaning, or a comforting routine may begin to feel too small. If you sense you are ready to grow without abandoning what matters, write in the comments, "I am ready to build what feels true." That reflects a central Taurus question. What are you willing to invest your time, energy, affection, and resources in now? To understand why this matters, look toward Venus, your ruling planet. Beyond romance and beauty, Venus symbolizes value, reciprocity, pleasure, self-worth, and your relationship with receiving. For Taurus, Venus reflects the instinct to preserve what feels meaningful. You can remain devoted to people, commitments, and dreams long after others might walk away. Yet devotion requires discernment. Something can be familiar without still being nourishing, and years already invested do not automatically justify every year that follows. So this movement is not simply a demand for change. It invites you to examine the foundations beneath your choices. What are you maintaining because it remains valuable? And what are you maintaining because letting go would lead into unfamiliar territory? Fixed Earth knows that lasting stability depends on understanding what deserves cultivation. Think of a garden tended for years. Deep roots create strength, but living soil is never motionless. Seasons change, branches need pruning, and roots search for nourishment when familiar ground can no longer sustain them. Taurus carries similar wisdom. Stability does not require remaining exactly where you have always been. The important question may not be what the near future will bring, but what you are willing to choose differently as you understand your worth more clearly. Astrology cannot control circumstances, but its symbolism can illuminate patterns in how you respond. Family expectations, financial fears, old relationships, social pressure, or predictability can quietly determine what feels possible. Taurus may protect these structures because security matters deeply. Yet eventually another question appears. Is this still protecting you, or has it begun preventing you from expanding? There is courage in answering without rushing yourself. Sometimes strength means admitting an old arrangement no longer fits, or allowing yourself to want something different without judging that desire. Strong roots can search for nourishment as the earth around them changes. If you have felt unfamiliar restlessness beneath your usual steadiness, listen before silencing it. Your body may recognize a shift before your mind finds language for it. Tension around obligations, relief when imagining another direction, or awareness that you give more than you receive may reveal where reflection is needed. Some of your most important work may also have happened where nobody could see it. You carried responsibilities without applause and continued building without immediate results. Those quiet efforts can become unseen roots beneath later transformation. Astrology can offer language for that endurance, the choices that reshape your inner structure before circumstances visibly respond. Every time you adjusted without abandoning yourself or continued through uncertainty, you strengthened your resilience. What looked like waiting may have been preparation. That is why change does not always arrive as a breakthrough. Sometimes nothing outside appears different. There is simply a recognition, like the first shoot pressing through dark soil. You look at something familiar differently and realize, I am not the person I was yesterday. Ask yourself, have you ever felt there is more of you waiting beneath the life you already know? If yes, write in the comments, I am ready to grow into a stronger version of myself. Words cannot transform life overnight, but naming what you are ready for can help you participate in that growth. If you are still here, Take a moment to like this video as an acknowledgement of the work you are already doing within yourself. Returning to the astrology, Venus brings attention toward value, reciprocity, and what you may finally be ready to receive. A postponed decision may become clearer, or an overlooked opportunity may feel more aligned with the life you want to build. Yet receiving something new does not mean saying yes to everything. Recognize what has substance, respects your values, and can grow without asking you to abandon yourself. Courage does not always look dramatic. Sometimes it means taking one deliberate step without demanding to see the entire road ahead. When you stop measuring progress only through visible results, you may notice how much has already changed beneath the surface. Certain habits, relationships, or expectations may no longer feel as comfortable. That does not mean everything must be abandoned. Sometimes discomfort reveals that your values have changed while your surroundings have not caught up. What falls away can create room for something more reciprocal and sustainable. So ask yourself, if familiarity were no longer the reason you stayed, what would you choose to cultivate instead? Another layer of this story now turns toward what you have been carrying inside, through a symbol connected with memory, instinct, emotional safety, and the private rhythms of the heart. That symbol is the moon. If Venus helps Taurus recognize what feels valuable, the moon reveals how those choices are experienced emotionally. Together, they explore how strength and tenderness can exist within you at once. Taurus is associated with steadiness, yet emotional strength is not measured only by how much you can carry without showing strain. Sometimes maturity begins when you recognize that your heart deserves the same care you have given everything else. An old memory may return, a conversation may linger, or quiet hours may uncover feelings usually kept beneath the surface. This sensitivity does not mean you are less stable. It can resemble rain reaching ground that has been firm for too long, softening what finally feels safe enough to loosen. Symbolically, the moon invites Taurus to feel what has been stored beneath composure. Another kind of strength appears here, listening without immediately defending, responding without hardening, and remaining steady without closing your heart. You may pause longer before reacting or reconsider what once felt certain. This can reflect deeper maturity, where strength is measured less by how firmly you hold a position and more by whether it still reflects your values. A tree does not lose its strength because its branches move with the weather. Remember that when emotions rise unexpectedly, some tears come because something inside you is releasing what it no longer needs to carry. Sometimes resilience includes admitting that part of you still needs care. If you have felt more sensitive recently, meet that sensitivity with curiosity. Ask yourself, are you learning to treat yourself with greater gentleness? Not by surrendering your standards, but by understanding your unfinished places without punishing yourself for them. If that question reaches something tender in you, share this in the comments. I allow myself to be both strong and gentle. Sometimes one honest acknowledgement can change how you understand yourself. The moon also reminds you that not every difficult situation deserves more of your energy. Sometimes strength means choosing peace, creating a boundary, or stepping away from what repeatedly leaves you depleted. When the noise settles, intuition becomes easier to hear. In that quieter space, you may recognize which relationships feel reciprocal and which direction leaves you more settled. Awareness develops like morning light moving across a room, allowing you to see familiar things differently. When lunar sensitivity meets Venusian themes, another kind of strength emerges. It means asking whether what you nurture is also nurturing you. A softer heart does not weaken your boundaries. Guided by self-respect, it can show you where those boundaries belong. Before moving forward, ask yourself, if you treated yourself with the patience you give those you care about, how might your choices change? Keep that question nearby, because the astrological story now widens toward possibility, growth, and what may become available when you stop measuring your future by the limits of your past. This brings us to Jupiter, traditionally associated with expansion, perspective, and opportunity. If the moon draws your attention inward, Jupiter turns your eyes toward what may exist beyond familiar boundaries. For Taurus, expansion matters most when it has substance. More is not automatically better. What matters is whether an opportunity supports the life you want to build. In the near future, possibilities that once seemed too distant may become easier to consider. This could involve career, finances, responsibility, an invitation, or a different understanding of what you deserve. Jupiter does not guarantee every opening will last. It broadens your perspective enough to reveal choices you may not have seen before. Can you recognize what is truly worth saying yes to? Growth does not require accepting every path placed before you. The strongest possibilities may respect your values while asking you to stretch beyond limits you have quietly outgrown. Trust matters here, but not blind trust. It is confidence that you can enter unfamiliar territory without abandoning your judgment or foundations. Sometimes a turning point begins while uncertainty remains, when staying exactly where you are feels less truthful than exploring what might come next. Part of you may want expansion while another part calculates what it could disrupt. What if the new direction fails? Perhaps the deeper question is whether you are comfortable receiving something larger when it asks you to see yourself differently. Once you recognize you are capable of more, it becomes harder to ignore where you have accepted less because it was predictable. Yet Jupiter is not only about status or conventional success. Expansion can mean developing a broader understanding of what a meaningful life looks like to you. Your worth does not increase because others admire you or because progress becomes visible. Mature success begins when what you build reflects what you believe without continually draining you. Taurus understands the difference between something that looks abundant and something that can genuinely sustain life. You may already influence others without noticing. The patience with which you rebuild after disappointment can remind someone that slow progress still counts. Sometimes living consistently with your values is enough. Jupiter can widen your understanding of what your life can hold. Growth is not a competition, and speed says little about whether you are moving in the right direction. The achievements that matter most may create stability and wisdom that allow your growth to benefit more than yourself. As the near future develops, you may be trusted with something larger or invited into an unfamiliar role. Give yourself room to adjust. Like a plant settling after being given more space, new growth can feel uncomfortable before it feels natural. If something inside you suggests that more is possible, do not dismiss it because you cannot yet see where it leads. Ask yourself, if a meaningful opportunity appeared in the near future, could you recognize that it was truly worth saying yes to? If that question stirs something in you, write, "I am ready to say yes to the right opportunity." Putting an intention into words does not guarantee an outcome, but it can clarify what you are willing to welcome. Growth rarely arrives exactly as imagined. Sometimes it comes through an unexpected invitation, a change of direction, or the realization that something familiar has completed its purpose. Those changes can be difficult because Taurus often prefers to know new ground is solid before leaving the old. Yet disruption may reveal what you truly value. Jupiter speaks to expansion through experience and possibility, asking you to make room for who you have already been growing into. The wider horizon is not asking you to abandon your foundations. Foundations are meant to support growth, not confine it. And as possibility widens, another question appears. Can you sustain what you are asking to receive? This is where Saturn changes the atmosphere. Jupiter opens the landscape beyond the garden wall, while Saturn turns your attention toward the soil, structure, and work required to keep something alive. Associated with discipline, boundaries, consequence, and responsibility, Saturn highlights what repeated choices eventually build. For Taurus, this matters because you understand consistency. But maturity is not simply enduring everything placed before you. Sometimes it means becoming more selective about what deserves your endurance and protecting what supports your long-term well-being. There may have been stretches when responsibility arrived faster than relief. You may have carried practical concerns, emotional obligations, or uncertainty while continuing to show up. Look back at what those experiences taught you. You may now possess a steadiness that an earlier version of you had not yet learned to trust. That resilience matters, but not because the universe owes you a reward for suffering. Saturnian symbolism offers a more grounded lesson. Repeated choices create habits, foundations, and capacities over time. Each time you remain consistent with something meaningful, you strengthen your ability to rely on yourself. Patient effort can create structures strong enough to carry more when opportunity arrives. It is natural to wish progress would move faster. Yet Taurus understands that what takes time to establish can develop a different kind of strength. A tree cannot be hurried into deep roots, and a meaningful life cannot always be measured by how quickly results appear. Saturn asks you to respect the slower work that makes growth sustainable. This is where discipline takes on a different meaning. It is not punishment or forcing yourself through exhaustion. Healthy discipline protects what matters from habits, distractions, and compromises that pull you away from your priorities. It means tending your direction without needing immediate applause or proof. In the near future, this may mean examining what has become too familiar to question. A habit may no longer support you, a belief about your worth may be outdated, or a lifestyle that once represented security may leave too little room for growth. Taurus does not need to release something simply because it is old. But when something continually takes nourishment without giving anything back, holding tighter may no longer mean protecting yourself. Letting go can be complicated when you have invested time, loyalty, or care. Still, pruning is not projecting the whole garden. Sometimes it preserves what remains alive. The deeper work may be less about proving your strength and more about taking responsibility for the patterns within your reach, including procrastination, fear of change, or the old voice questioning whether you deserve more. Real growth rarely requires perfection. Saturn's symbolism is more concerned with consistency, accountability, and what you practice repeatedly. Small steps matter when they reflect your values, and sometimes the quietest changes eventually reshape the strongest foundations. There may also be moments when this process feels lonely because others cannot fully see what you are reconsidering within yourself. That does not mean you have taken the wrong path. Sometimes growth creates temporary silence while your relationships, priorities, and sense of belonging find a new balance. So ask yourself carefully, are you ready to release the patterns that keep you secure but small and make room for a more grounded version of yourself? If the question feels meaningful, write in the comments, I am ready to grow. A sentence cannot do the work for you, but it can mark the moment you become willing to begin consciously. And if you are still listening, take a moment to like this video as a quiet acknowledgement of the persistence that brought you here. Sharing it may help another Taurus see difficulty differently, not simply as failure, but as experience that can reveal strength, patience, and self-understanding. Saturn does not promise rewards for every hardship, yet its symbolism draws attention to what consistency can build over time. Sometimes, the most meaningful result is realizing that you have learned to trust yourself. Hold on to that thought, because these astrological themes become more meaningful when viewed together. Experiences that once seemed disconnected may reveal a common thread: what you endured, what you learned to value, what you released, and what you continued building through uncertainty. Each experience may have changed how you understand security, worth, and the life you now want to cultivate. For Taurus, this is where renewal becomes especially meaningful. Fixed Earth can appear motionless, yet healthy Earth is always changing beneath the surface, restoring itself and preparing for new life. Venus adds another question: what deserves your care? And what are you finally ready to receive in return? Together, these themes suggest growth that can reshape your foundations without destroying them. Renewal may begin when an old pattern loses its hold, your priorities become clearer, or the life you once worked hard to preserve no longer reflects everything you value. Something within you may be shifting from preservation toward cultivation. You are no longer asking only, how do I keep this? But also, is this still something I want to keep growing? That distinction matters for Taurus. Your strength does not come from changing faster than everyone around you, but from understanding what deserves patience and commitment. Yet wisdom also means recognizing when devotion has become attachment to something whose season has changed. Think of a garden that has survived several seasons. Its strength is not found in keeping every branch exactly as it was, but in allowing what remains alive to develop. Some roots deepen, some branches are pruned, and new shoots emerge from once bare ground. Renewal can carry that same quiet intelligence. If you have felt a desire to live with greater meaning, listen to it. Perhaps you are becoming less willing to invest in relationships without reciprocity, work that consistently undervalues you, or routines that offer familiarity without fulfillment. This does not mean every uncomfortable situation should be abandoned. It may simply mean your definition of security is becoming more honest. When you begin living closer to what you genuinely value, others often notice. Someone may see you establish a healthier boundary and realize they can do the same, or watch you rebuild patiently and remember that slow progress still counts. Authenticity can influence without announcing itself. For Taurus, that influence often comes through consistency, keeping promises to yourself, caring for others without abandoning your needs, and refusing to exchange lasting values for temporary approval. These choices may not attract immediate attention, but over time, they create the kind of character others learn they can trust. Success looks different through this lens. It becomes less about reaching a position that proves your worth and more about creating something that reflects it, a career that respects your contribution, relationships where care moves both ways, or an inner stability that does not disappear whenever circumstances change. Much of that is built quietly, through ordinary days when you continue tending what matters. You may not realize who is noticing. A friend may find courage in how you recover from disappointment, or someone you love may reconsider their choices after seeing you honor yours. You're not responsible for their journey, but a life lived with integrity can influence others in unexpected ways. So as the near future unfolds, think more broadly about what you are building and why it matters. Perhaps the stability you have spent so long creating can become fertile ground for something more authentic. You do not need every answer before beginning. Sometimes readiness develops while you learn how to make room for what comes next. Uncertainty may remain because meaningful change rarely removes every fear beforehand, but fear does not need to become the architect of your choices. You can acknowledge uncertainty while listening to what your values are asking you to cultivate. For Taurus, deeper courage may lie not in rushing toward change, but in refusing to remain unchanged simply because the familiar once felt safe. Pause and sit with this question. What do you want to cultivate in the near future? Perhaps it is a project, a family relationship, a postponed dream, or a more intentional direction for your life. If something in that question speaks to you, write in the comments, "I am ready to build what feels true." Giving a desire language can help you understand what it asks from you. And if you have stayed with this message, take a moment to like the video as an acknowledgement of the changes already taking place within you. Sharing it may help another Taurus recognize that their doubts do not define their potential. When you choose according to your values rather than your fears, you become clearer about which relationships feel reciprocal, which opportunities deserve investment, and which possibilities seem distant only because you are viewing them through an older understanding of yourself. That does not mean life suddenly rearranges itself exactly as you wish. Often what changes first is how you meet what arrives. You become more discerning about where your energy belongs, and less willing to exhaust yourself maintaining something simply because you have maintained it for years. Keep your roots deep, but remember that living roots strengthen by reaching toward nourishment. Looking across what you have experienced, even difficult chapters may have taught you something about yourself. They have shown you what you can endure, what you cannot continue accepting, and what matters enough to protect. Astrology can offer symbols for these turning points, but their deeper meaning comes from how consciously you respond. For Taurus, this is not about becoming someone entirely new. It is about creating room for a more honest version of yourself to take root. The transformation here is gradual rather than dramatic. Think of winter soil softening before the landscape changes, or a garden preparing for growth before the first leaves appear. Much of the important work happens beneath the surface. By the time change becomes visible, its roots may already be established. A new cycle does not necessarily require abandoning your existing life. You may remain in the same place while relating differently to work, money, relationships, and self-worth. You may become calmer when plans shift, clearer about boundaries, and less likely to interpret every setback as proof that you are moving in the wrong direction. Sometimes renewal begins when you stop asking the outside world to constantly confirm that you are enough. There may have been periods when you wondered why progress demanded so much patience. Looking back, some experiences may have strengthened qualities you now rely upon: discernment, endurance, emotional boundaries, and the ability to continue without immediate reassurance. If you notice yourself thinking differently now, let that change matter. Readiness means meeting uncertainty without automatically retreating into what is familiar. Remember what you have already carried: situations you thought would overwhelm you, days when you were tired but continued, and plans that changed only to reveal priorities you had not understood before. You do not need to romanticize hardship to recognize what it taught you. Your experience has given you evidence of your resilience. Perhaps that is more valuable than knowing exactly what the near future holds. You do not need a perfect map when you have greater trust in the person reading it. Whatever changes around you, you can pause, recognize what matters, and choose your next step with awareness. That confidence may be quieter than certainty, but it is often more sustainable. If you feel something stirring within you, give yourself permission to notice it. Perhaps it is a desire to grow, a clearer understanding of what you deserve, or relief at realizing you no longer need to force yourself into an old version of security. If these words resonate, write in the comments, "I trust what I am becoming." Sometimes an affirmation gives voice to something you have already begun to understand. And if this message has offered you something meaningful, take a moment to like, subscribe, and share it with another Taurus navigating change. Astrology can give us language for experiences that are difficult to explain alone. Someone else may hear this and recognize that growth does not have to be loud to be real. Carry this with you. You do not need to become a completely different person to welcome a different future. Keep the values that still feel true while releasing habits, expectations, and attachments that no longer support them. Trust what is proven worthy of your care, and trust yourself enough to reconsider what has not. Your strength has never depended on remaining untouched by change. Like Earth moving through the seasons, stability can contain release, restoration, and new growth without losing its essential nature. What matters is learning how to rise without abandoning yourself. The more clearly you understand your worth, the less power temporary uncertainty has to convince you that you have lost your way. Perhaps that is the deeper Taurus message within this astrological landscape. You were never meant to measure your potential by old doubts or confuse familiarity with the only form of safety available to you. What is developing may be less about becoming larger and more about becoming deeply rooted in what is true. And from soil, patiently tended, a different kind of life can continue finding its way toward the surface.